Anyways, we'll start with the last slide.
This meeting is being recorded.
When we talk about the prioritization of the MVPs, at this stage, we definitely look
Sir,
forward
you
for the
are audible.
future. Hello. Am I audible now?
Yes, but not too loud.
Just a second, let me check. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now we focus on to the prioritization of the minimum viable products features. That is, at this stage, we definitely focus on the features that an MVP will support. This is where we should definitely ask the question as in lean starter, that what do the user want? Is this product offerings something beneficial that the customers need? It should all focus on the learnings of the high priority, medium priority, and low priority of the features that may be required to be introduced onto the product. It's a very essential step wherein the features of the product could be categorized priority wise based on the learnings, and then build a MVP around it to create a prototype of the minimum viable product. This stage is utmost important. Steve Jobs once failed because he ignored the prototyping stage during the building of the Apple Lisa, which resulted into a major disaster as it could not grab a good number of sales. And as we talk about failure, you already discussed in the earlier slides that failure is rule, not an exception. And if it's an exception, it's a lesson. It's a lesson to learn. It's a lesson to improve. It's a lesson to grow. We then go to the next part of it, that is the fifth one, the launch of the minimum viable product. At this stage, you are focusing on launching of MVP, which is not of a lower quality than a final product, but it will still satisfy the needs of the customers. That would easily be used for engaging a suitable number of users towards your product. And there's a famous saying by the author of the Lean Product Playbook, Dan Olsen. The main reasons why the product fails is that they don't meet customers' needs in a way that is better than other alternatives. There are many competitors in the market. Failing to learn early, failing to learn correctly about the product may be one of the major factors that your product may not meet the customer's need, and they may switch to a better alternative. And post switching, there is a very difficult part to grab the customers back towards the product. The major giant wars in the telecom sectors is the most exquisite example of the same. Due to the introduction of a major giant into the telecom sectors, many users from the traditional telecom sectors have moved on to the newly introduced technology into the market, which was offering a value-added service to the things which was not really introduced, which was the need of an hour, and it really grabbed the entire market. And the significant major role players who are there in the industry from years could not survive even there, because there was a huge customer acquisition by the newness of the value addition to the telecom sectors with the introduction of that MVPs to that service. And today it's hard for certain companies to survive. And the rather last case scenario, to be in the market and to build and to compete, is a merger of fortune companies to come together to build something, to learn from where they failed, and to focus on where they could build for the future regards. And finally, it all focuses on exercising build, measure, learn. The whole idea is to first test the stage by carrying out a quality assurance engineering work to improve the product's quality even before the product is released. The next step is post launching of a MVP, going over all again and getting the feedback from the customers, and finally determining the acceptance of the competitiveness of the goods in the market being launched based on the feedbacks or the comments received from the market. And this BML helps a lot in improvising your product for value additions onto the MVPs and for sustainability of the product into the market. Measuring success after building an MVP goes on in the following manners. The whole flow rate makes you understands the way you could measure the success post building of your minimum viable product. It certainly goes by a word of mouth. Of course, if you have built around a good product, a word of mouth will definitely help you out for the good number of sales. Followed to engagement sign-ups, better client appraisal based on the feedbacks, to percentage of active users, to customer acquisition cost or client acquisition cost, number of paying users, lifetime of your product, that is the client lifetime value, and finally the churn rate. You may go around it one by one. We first go across a word of mouth. It all happens by listing the problem of a customer facing or is about to face, and then ask what is their opinion. And this all starts with a focus group onto a targeted customers to get their opinion about the product. Followed to engagements. Engagements decides not only your present value of the product, but it may decide the future value of your product. It really helps you to improve the user experience based on the feedback that you could improve and keep your customers engaged to your product. There are many companies now focusing on sign-ups. Nowadays, there's a huge market publicity onto e-commerce based on the product's prior launch. To sign up for the product that is about to launch after a month or 3 months, so that they could understand the needs of the customers, the product values, what is the need of the market, what are the actual number of users who are really interested in this product, who will turn up when I launch up the product and may really purchase my product. Of course, a certain amount is always considered to be a non-turn up rates, wherein of the 100% of the sign-ups, we absolutely assume that few numbers may definitely not turn up during the time we launch the product. That's all accounted for. But this will give a fair idea of the numbers that you may have to achieve during the time of the launch, and would definitely give a good idea of how many customers have really showed interest to your product. Getting the appraisals based on feedback of the clients, especially when it comes to the applications, the APIs, which we nowadays download from the Google App Stores or the Android or the Apple iOS. You may better see words about the app demonstrating 3.4K downloads or million downloads, trillion downloads, so far and so forth. This all helps build that application for further focus onto the customers acquisition, wherein the number of downloads is attracting the other number of users to attract towards it, showing that the app is really good and a huge amount of customers are already using the app. And it all begins with the user experience the app may give. The percentage of the active users, again, when we talk about our APIs, it all discuss about the downloads and the launch rates, how many times you use. So certainly e-commerce giants generally focuses on the product page that you visit again and again to recommend something better, or even recommend the best of the offerings as a sale to their customers. It is essential to study this behavior and check these ratings so that you will get the percentage of active users. At the same time, this will ensure that the customer is still available with you. The customer is still connected to your app. The customer is still using your product. Then comes a CAC, that is client acquisition cost. It all depends and becomes very imperative on how much the cost it is required to acquire the customers. The money spent on the traction channels to the number of customers acquired through that channel is what decides the customer acquisition cost. Follow to the number of paying users, which been monitored as ARPU, also known to as ARPU, that is average revenue per user, which is where the whole model of Jio was designed across. When we talk about the competition in the telecom sectors, we all know that few years back there were major giants offering services on the name of talk time. We used to recharge for 300 or 400 rupees for a certain amount of talk time. along with free SMSs as per the value of the package that you may have opt for. The whole business was developed across getting a fixed amount per customers periodically. And that does not mean that the 300 rupees that we top up may be sufficient enough to run for that 1 month or 3 months plan that we have opted for. And then it all followed by the top ups or the value added services that we may have to top up post the plan has been about to vanish off or is about to finish. And this is where the major giant before the launch had understood that this model may not help me survive in the market. There's another whole set that needs to be worked out. Another whole set that needs to be understood that what the customer needs. And that was the aspect of the unlimited voice calls and free SMSs and sale of data and not the voice calls or the volumes as a revenue to it. The whole focus was not on the revenue generated periodically as an amount of recharge and top up from the customers, but the whole business was developed across the average revenue per user by the major offerings that may be used by that customers. That was a immediate value that was adding to the customers and offering something value added to what the customer was really requiring it out in terms of what was not earlierly available. And the whole idea of ARPU runs around total income for the day or age to the number of active users, which will define average revenue per users that a company may generate, which is really important for your company to survive in the market. Then comes the CLV, that is the client lifetime value. Of course, each product has their lifetime values of the customers. If there is something which is really grabbing the customer's interest, which your product is not offering, then you may definitely suffer from this CLV. It all demonstrates on how much a customer spends the time on your product, especially when you talk about the applications, because there's a huge race amongst the various Android and iOS applications. There is a whole new applications built around each day, and people are really getting attracted towards that applications, the UI, the UX that has been offered by them. Most of the users may have used the IRCTC platform, the GoIbigo platform, the Ixigo platform, the Trivago platform. All were fantastic apps, no doubt about it. All has their own app. But then there was a significant dropout onto the client lifetime value onto each of these apps. The reason being was they could have not understood that there was a need of integrating of an app wherein they have everything onto a single app. And this is where Paytm, Flipkart, Amazon focused on. They worked around the UX, they worked around the interface, wherein these were all the fintech and the e-commerce companies, but they provided their platforms to be even used for booking a ticket and to redirect them to the IRCTC page or towards Air India page or any flight booking page. The whole idea was to design an environment around an app which would integrate and offer values all in one. So the customer does not have to switch to another app again and again. And the customer retention would be there with that particular app. And when we talk about CLP, it focuses on profit from a user into the product usage duration, which is subtracted from your acquisition cost. And finally comes the churn rate. The churn rate shows the level or percentage of people who may have uninstalled or stopped the usage of your product or your application. Especially the example that we have taken is about the applications. The churn rate may be calculated as the number of churns per week or month to the number of users at the beginning of the week or the month. You may have a successive rise at the launch, but you may slow down in the mid or even fall down by the time you are about to go towards the end of that particular week or a month. This all depends on what is the value that the product has offered or the application has offered and how it was being able to grab the customer's retention ratio towards that product or services being offered. You all may be knowing that there are major sales that comes out in the major e-giants available on the name of Big Billion Days or Great Indian Festivals or whatnot. Why this is required? This all is a need of an hour. This is all helping them grabbing the customer's immediate interest onto their e-commerce platforms so that they do not lose the retentions of their customers. Otherwise, the customers may switch to some other e-commerce platforms who may be offering something good. And by the time if that happens, the market may have already stepped out, and with the loss of major customers being transferred or being acquired by some another giant or the launch of a new introduction of the e-commerce into the market. And when we talk about this lean startup, it's all designed through this lean startup canvas, wherein you focus on the customer segments to its problems and finding out its existing alternatives, to the revenue streams that may help you out to grow with what was presently available and what is the value that you launched by providing a solution to that problem through your unique value propositions and distribution channels. Further, by learning the key metrics of your product, improvising it by the feedback, to the cost structures and unfair advantage in the market. And to just sum up around the 5 key takeaways of the lean startup and minimum viable product. That is, a lean startup is the process of developing a product or company based on the expressed desires of the market. The lean startup uses validated learning, which is a process by which companies assess the consumer's interest. A lean startup method focuses heavily on customer related information such as customer churn rate, lifetime customer value, and product popularity. It all startups on practices, experimentations, which is more favor adherence to a rigid plan and involvement of the standards prior to the release of a small form or the early concept of the product to assess the customer's reactions onto the product. And these 5 key takeaways sums up a lot about lean startup and a minimum viable product. Hope I was being able to take you through the insights onto lean startup and minimum viable product. And the house is now open for any queries. Thank you for your time and attention. Over to Preeti ma'am.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you for sharing your valuable time. Your comments are very timely. Like you told us about the characteristics of lean startup, their experimentation, requirement of lean startup, minimum viable product, measuring success after building an MVP, client lifetime value, and churn rates. Everything was very timely when we are like entering into the phase of innovation and startup. So thank you once again for sharing your valuable presentation with our all students, our all innovators team. Thank you once again, sir, on the behalf of whole BBTI team. Dr. Preeti ma'am,
Thank
are
you
you there?
ma'am. Thank you all for members for the
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now I am ending the session. Thank you so much, participant. Thank you from the IIC.
Thank you ma'am and thank you all the dear participants.
Yeah, thank you, sir.